you mentioned the front of the screen. You just mentioned Huffington Post Live. We're partners, AOL, YouTube, Hulu, Microsoft, Yahoo, IAB, Digitas, in relaunching, growing the Digital Content NewFronts. Why are you involved in original video content? And where do you think that's going to go, and how do you think it will differ from what we've seen on conventional television?
I think, number one, first of all, I'm really excited about the upfronts, and I think they're going to be really powerful. I think what will happen actually is I think the content, the content will be better. I think one of the things that's happening right now is the NewFronts kind of got together last year, and it was kind of like watching two dogs who didn't know each other, meet for the first time. I think this year will be much less sniffing this year and more action, this year between TV and the web, hopefully. But the other thing that's happening, and I just spent the last 3 days in LA, is the content creators, the people who are the best creative people in the world, where it was a side project a year ago or 2 years ago, are now deeply engaged in it. And I saw things over the last 3 or 4 days that I thought would take 2 years to get to. And I think this goes back to the guy with the t-shirt saying, "You can't stop me" on it. Once the creative community gets involved in this, and they actually, you gotta remember, a lot of those people sit around a lot without tons of projects. They get big projects and they go away. The fact that they're engaged now, I think you're going to see longer form video take off, and I think you're going to see the quality levels go up dramatically. And the reason we're investing in video content, original video content, we're a big investor in it, is because I fundamentally believe, and this is probably different than a lot of Silicon Valley mentality, but I learned this in I learned to think the opposite of it in Silicon Valley, is consumers have a true paradox of choice. And the moment it gelled for me is we were having a meeting with Jimmy Iovine from Def Jam, and he said to me, people come to my house all the time, and he's a music guy, and he has all music people come to his house, and most people, if you put them on the spot, can't name more than 15 or 20 songs to put on an iPod. And when you start going out, and if you read the book Paradox of Choice, you start to realize that humans want to be entertained, and they search and find is huge, and it's a massive, massive business. By the way, I'm very pro in terms of that business, where it's going to go. But I think the ability for our industry to basically tell people what to do in terms of entertainment is just scratching the surface. Most of the things on the web are still, search or self-service. We're taking AOL in a non-self-service mode, and we have some, out-of-the-box ideas about what to do that we're going to be working on.
Last question that I want to ask you. There's been a lot of discussion and a lot of debate. You were here for it about standards versus native in advertising units. Now, you showed, and you talk about the power of both, and I know it applies directly to this. You showed the Engadget Verizon partnership, which is certainly highly customized. But then you talked about Project Devil. Why did you allow Project Devil to be considered to become, as it did, an IAB standard unit, the IAB portrait? Why didn't you hold it to yourself as a pure native ad unit?
We had a huge debate about that, and the debate, and we ended up coming down on the fact that basically if the whole industry moved in that direction, it would probably be better for us. So we basically put it out there as a thought leader starter, and we've had tremendous growth in it ourselves, but I think what you've seen now is there's multiple formats that look just like Project Devil. So I think there's a thought process from our standpoint that basically there's so much wind still at our back that if we all get together and launch multiple things like that, that things will come. One thing I would just say, we have a saying internally, I heard it in London last week also, everything that can go programmatic will go programmatic. And that doesn't mean low value stuff, that means high CPM stuff. Also, I think once you get to the level of things going programmatic, when you go to the other side of it, I think there's a big debate whether or not native, it has to be big enough scale where you're going to get outputs from it, or it has to be breakthrough. If you don't have scale and you don't have breakthrough, native thing, I believe, aren't going to work. Mm-hmm. So that's why we spent a lot of time on the things like the makers thing I showed, because I think if you're going to go more native, you have to go big and you have to go breakthrough, and I think that's going to put pressure on it. I think having arguments about spots and what they look like over time, whether they're native or not, is going to be really difficult in a more programmatic world.